We're just a few hours removed from the last WWE pay-per-view of the decade. Did it leave us high up on the metaphorical ladder? Did it leave us crash down through the metaphorical table? Or did it smack us about the head with the metaphorical can of dog food? This is WWE TLC Graded. Kickoff show shenanigans from Booker T and the Revival. Revival say, hey Booker, if you got something to say, how about you get Stevie Ray and you say it in the ring? Booker T doesn't rise to this, of course. Stevie Ray is tweeting up a storm immediately. We could potentially be getting Harlem Heat back in a WWE ring. If this is anything to go by, one-off match, I'll be all right with that. Stevie Ray would as well. He was going crazy on Twitter about this. I think he'd be glad to be out of the house, to be honest. Just the one match on the kickoff show, and it's a rematch from Monday Night Raw between Andrade and Humberto Carrillo. Now, Humberto Carrillo got the win on Andrade on Monday Night Raw because of shenanigans involving Zelina Vega on the apron. So Andrade and Zelina are not in the best of places during this match. Andrade, a lot of the time, spends the match sort of looking over to Zelina and pointing over, and it's just as you can tell the tension's there. Andrade is trying to slowly, methodically break down Humberto Carrillo, but Humberto won't be denied tonight. Hits a beauty of a standing moonsault, hits a tope, hits a missile dropkick, busts open Andrade's eye in the process of this offensive flurry, though. Andrade gets a comeback in there, hits a beauty of a double foot stomp onto Umberto, which takes them both to the outside of the ring. So Umberto's kind of leaning outside the ring, and Andrade comes off the top rope and they both crash to the outside. Look very dangerous. We almost saw history repeat itself as Zelina Vega got onto the ring apron once again, and Andrade almost went crashing into her again, and Umberto got the roll up once again, but only got two. Umberto rallies, hits a poison Frankensteiner and a moonsault for the 1, 2, 3, and Humberto Carrillo has just pinned Andrade again. Andrade and Zelina Vega argue in the ring before Andrade leaves without her. Is this the end of Andrade and Zelina Vega? Find out on Monday Night Raw, I guess. Giving this a B. This was a great way to open the show. Really fun opening match. Umberto has got such a strong upside, as has Andrade. These two just flow so well together. I want to see these guys wrestle all the time. We kick off the show proper with a ladder match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. It's the New Day defending against the Revival, and this was a car crash, but in a good way, like in a controlled, well-planned way, not in other ways. More on that later. New Day and Revival just have such wonderful chemistry together. We see Kofi Kingston take a shatter machine off the ladder onto the Revival lads. They don't quite connect with it, which is a shame. But regardless, that does take Kofi out of the match. Big E takes a big old shoe in. He eats a suplex onto a ladder that's spread out from like one ladder and the turnbuckles. They've got like a ladder bed thing. He takes a suplex onto that and a splash onto that late in the match. Big E does really take it to both these lads on his own. We see a big spear through the rope at one point, but they're just overwhelming him, and it looks like the Revival are going to climb up and get the tag titles for themselves. Then Kofi just appears out of nowhere, jumps onto the ladder, springboards onto the ladder, and then they're fighting on top of the ladder. Big E back to his feet after this shoe-in, hits a big ending on Wilder off the ladder. That looked great. And then Kofi Kingston keeps it simple. Just swings the championship belts into the face of Dawson. Dawson goes crashing down. Kofi grabs the belts, retain the titles. This was a stellar ladder match. I'm giving it an A. An A to start TLC. We're off to a good start, aren't we? These guys, as I say, great chemistry between them. I'm only sad that there wasn't the build to this being a ladder match. Like, I feel like we could have had some fun on TV, sort of doing stuff to give them the reason for this to be a ladder match, rather than just the fact of, it's TLC, here is a ladder match. I know there was other plans for other matches to go on, which fell through for one reason or another. I'm looking at you, Robert Roode. But despite the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of build to this in the grand scheme of things, this was a great match. This was a great match. Great ladder match. Great work, everybody. We have a match built around a door knocker as Alistair Black goes one-on-one with Buddy Murphy. Mind games straight off the bat. as Buddy Murphy is sat cross-legged in the ring. We have a great shot as Aleister Black jumps into the ring, goes straight into the cross-legged position, and that is where they start the match, just staring at each other like that. They get to their feet. The bell sounds. As the bell is sounding, Black is swinging with black mass, and Buddy Murphy just pegs it out of the ring. He's like, nope, I know what this is. I'm away. Murphy and Black have a really strong, strike-laden match. It feels really snug at some points as well. Murphy drops Aleister Black onto the steel steps, and it busts his nose wide open. Commentary are really weird about this. I don't know whether they were told to not acknowledge Aleister Black having a broken nose, because Jerry Lawler kept saying, because the commentators were talking about Aleister Black may having a bust jaw. They're going, oh, the jaw of Aleister Black may have been bust from all these attacks. And then Jerry Lawler's there going, yeah, but guys, he's clearly got a broken nose. And they just ignore him. I don't know whether the order came down to say, don't acknowledge the broken nose. Possibly. But it was a striking visual for Aleister Black to be fighting back from underneath with just this nose that it looked broken, swollen and red and angry. At one point, Buddy Murphy grabs Aleister Black's jacket. Looks like he's going to put it on until Aleister Black gets onto the apron. So Murphy throws it at him from the apron, and Aleister Black ducks it, and we don't see it, but we just hear a kerfuffle on commentary. And from what we gather, Jerry Lawler caught it with his face because the crowd start chanting Jerry afterwards. I'm really sad that we didn't see that. Big combo of knee strikes and a brain buster gets Buddy Murphy a 2.999 count. That will be the closest he will come to beating Aleister Black in this very, very, very intense match. We get a big old combo of punches and kicks, swings and misses, round and round and round, and then literally out of nowhere, bang, black mass. Straight in the face of Buddy Murphy. A 1, a 2, a 3. Aleister Black beats Buddy Murphy just out of nowhere. This was a B+ for me. This was a match that didn't have a whole lot of heat to it. The crowd didn't seem massively invested in it, which I think took away from it somewhat. There were points where they were invested in it, but Aleister Black is a real phenom. And him and Buddy Murphy just really clicked nicely together. So I really enjoyed this match. I think the crowd not being into it affected it slightly. I'd like it to have gone another 5 minutes maybe. That'd have been cool. So I'm giving it a B+. I really liked it. I want to see more from these two, please. Can we not just leave Aleister Black in a room waiting for somebody to knock on his door? Can we do a bit more with him? Go on. It is time for your product integration tag team open challenge. Viking Raiders come out with the Raw tag titles. As they're heading to the ring, there's a table set up of KFC featuring 4 lucky fans who have won the best seats in the house. So they're sat there eating chicken with KFC buckets all nicely branded up, watching the tag team match. They're just random fans. 2 of them look like trainee wrestlers, but I'm sure that's a coincidence. So the Viking Raiders have laid out an open challenge for the Raw tag titles, and that challenge is answered by the Good Brothers, the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. They say, we're the only team that's beaten you, and we're going to come and beat you again. And so there we go. That's the open challenge. I feel like that's a bit of a... I feel like it's a wasted opportunity. I feel like if you're gonna tell us it's an open challenge, I'd like the team to have been somebody different, a bit more of a surprise, maybe. Nothing against Gallows and Anderson. I picked the Undisputed Era to get involved. I don't like that. I lost a point in the predictions contest because they didn't. Not bothered. This was fine. It was a standard tag match. Good Brothers wearing down Eric. Ivar gets the hot tag late in the match. Ivar does a springboard. You know how the Revival missed that Shasta machine earlier on. Ivar has a springboard back elbow that I think hits the particles in the air around Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and that in turn knocks them over. You could have driven a car through the gap that was left by Ivar and the Good Brothers. Viking Experience is broken up. They end up fighting to the outside of the ring, wiping everybody out, and we get a double count out from the referee to end the match. It looks like the Good Brothers are going to finish off the Viking Raiders. They pull this table away from remember the KFC people that won the prize? Yeah, they get their table taken away from them. And it looks like the Good Brothers are going to put Eric through the table. Ivar comes to the rescue, and it ends up being Carl Anderson who gets a double bomb, boom, through the KFC branded table as the Viking Raiders leave with their heads held high. And presumably the competition winners are fuming because they won a competition and the table they were eating on was destroyed. You know, you're going to have some issues with the Complaints Commission if that is the case. Gonna give this a KFC. Hey, C. It was fine. It was all right. It was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't a standout tag match. This very much felt like a Monday Night Raw match. I always feel like on a pay-per-view you should always try and go a bit more, a bit further, a bit edgier, a bit cooler, push a bit harder. This just felt like a TV match. And there you go. I don't feel like anything was really gained by it. So it's a C. I feel like from here, the show starts to dip a bit. We've had like a really cracking ladder match. We had a good match with Buddy Murphy and Alistair Black. We had an alright tag match. And now we come to Roman Reigns versus King Corbin in a TLC match. It starts off with good intention as Roman Reigns is fighting off all the lads that brought the throne down to the ring for King Corbin. They're all coming at him and Roman's just swatting them away. He puts one through a table, chucks one off the stage, and then he's just battering King Corbin all around the ringside area through the crowd. They get into the ring and Corbin hits a deep six out of nowhere and then Corbin takes control. Here's the thing, there's not a lot of TLC in this TLC match. You've gone to the trouble of making it a tables, ladders and chairs match, but you don't really use the tables, ladders or chairs. It just felt like a standard match with probably a couple of other random weapons being pulled out here, there and everywhere. But you didn't really make full use of the fact that it was a TLC match. I wouldn't have been upset if you hadn't booked it as a TLC match and just booked it as a standard no DQ match or whatever. Roman Reigns, to his credit, does go to use a table on King Corbin, sets one up in the ring and everything, but gets clonked in the head by a tin of dog food. Corbin just waffles him with some dog food that leaves Roman prone to getting dropped through the table. 2.5 count though, the dog food doesn't quite do it, and nor does the table. And then we see Baron Corbin take Roman to the outside of the ring. He clears off the announce table and it looks like he's going to drop him through the announce table. Roman goes, no mate, I have had time to recover. Puppy power. Samoan drop through the announce table. A tip for Roman Reigns, you need to stop doing the long run-up moves. A long run-up Superman punch or a long run-up spear. Because you're clearly short-sighted. At Clash of Champions, you ran all the way down the ramp, didn't see Luke Harper coming at you. On this occasion, you run all the way around the ring. Presumably you're going to spear or Superman punch Corbin. And you don't see Dolph Ziggler, who just appears and kicks you in the head. Stop doing the long run-ups. You're clearly short-sighted. Go to Specsavers, get yourself some glasses. Yeah, so Ziggler turns up now. Ziggler and Corbin batter a timekeeper for a little bit. Roman comes to his aid. I'm presuming it's a family friend or something. And then from there, the big dog just gets dominated because Ziggler's there and Corbin's there. All the lackeys who carried the throne, they're back to full power. So they're all trying to take out Roman Reigns and he's throwing them away, battering them away. The Revival come down. The Revival are battering Roman Reigns. Reigns fights them off. He does a big dive onto everybody outside the ring, gets back in the ring, gives it the whole hoo-ah! And then a chair just clocks him in the face. Right, the visual on this is actually too funny. Where he's, again, like, you're short-sighted, mate. Giving it the whole, hoo-ah, I'm going to do my move. And then suddenly a steel chair just appears in shot, like it's just burst into existence, some weird improbability drive type shenanigan, and just bashes him in the face. Turns out Ziggler threw the chair, hits him with a zigzag. Revival are back in the ring. He hit a shatter machine. Corbin hits the end of days onto the steel chair. 1, 2, 3. King Corbin has just pinned Roman Reigns because of reasons. I'm giving this, as exciting as all that sounds, I'm giving this a C-. This wasn't great. This The bit near the end where Roman's sort of fighting off an entire army, I thought that was a nice bit near the end, but God, it dragged in the middle. God, it just, like this may be one of the dullest TLC matches. There's a few others that I've seen that are close, but this is pretty bare. Like, I wouldn't have minded if this was just a regular, like, no DQ match, because you bill it as a TLC match. There's a certain element of expectation that comes with that, i.e. using tables, using ladders, and using chairs. Or you could just use tins of dog food. Why not? Bray Wyatt versus The Miz next, and Bray Wyatt's entrance is adorable. This is, I think, the first time that we've properly seen in the centre of the ring, like cuddly Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt. And he comes out smiling and waving and takes a selfie with a fan. The crowd are going crazy because he keeps coming out onto the apron and holding his belt up. Oh gosh, The Miz is in the ring staring a hole through this man who is just there for a good time. And then just as the bell sounds, Bray Wyatt goes, "Okay, Miz, easy now." And as he does that, The Miz just wails on him, just batters him. In fact, Bray Wyatt in this entire match gets 2 offensive moves for the entire thing. So it's The Miz just destroying Bray Wyatt, who very much is just at the mercy of The Miz. He's not there to fight. He's just getting battered. We see just anger in The Miz the whole way through. And we see Bray Wyatt laughing throughout the whole thing. Like, there's one moment where The Miz is pulling back on the arm of Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt is laughing and smiling, and then he snaps the arm, and then and Bray Wyatt rolls out of the ring, like clearly in pain, so runs at the barrier and bashes his shoulder into the barrier a couple of times. In the commentators say to pop his shoulder back in. Then he gets eaten. Then he gets a dive by The Miz, and The Miz carries on beating him up. All the tide turns when The Miz comes at Bray Wyatt on the outside, and Bray manages just to let the momentum carry Miz into the crowd, or hoys him into the crowd, pulls him over the barricade and hits a hanging Sister Abigail to the outside of the ring, then gets back into the ring. Miz barely makes the count and gets back into like 9.5, only to eat a Sister Abigail again. 1, 2, 3. End of the match. And Bray Wyatt stands over him and he's very apologetic for what's just happened. Then the Fiend appears on the big screen. And then Bray Wyatt says, "Okay, yeah, I will. Goes to the outside of the ring, pulls out the big comedy mallet that we saw at Hell in a Cell. It looks like he's going to use the comedy mallet on The Miz. The lights go out because the Fiend's going to turn up as well. Only we don't get the Fiend. No, we don't. We get a mystery man in a hood who runs at Bray Wyatt and takes his head off with a running knee. Hood comes down. Oh my God, it's American Dragon Bryan Danielson. Daniel Bryan has had his head shaved. He's had his beard shaved. He looks like he hasn't aged a day in the entire decade. It's ridiculous. He ends up just battering Bray Wyatt, stomps to the head. He looks like he's about to use the mallet on Bray Wyatt, and then Bray Wyatt just vanishes. All the power goes out, sort of Fiend style. When the lights come back on, Bray Wyatt's gone. And Daniel Bryan is stood there in the ring, the crowd going, yes, yes, yes. And Bray Wyatt's gone, and Daniel Bryan's doing all this as well with them. It's a lovely moment. Daniel Bryan back after 2 weeks, but it feels like he's been gone for ages. It's strange. Controversially, I'm not going to give this a grade, okay? Now, this was, I love the storyline element of Bray Wyatt's character. I do. I think this was a really fun way to incorporate Bray Wyatt in a match with The Fiend. I thought it was a great way to bring Daniel Bryan back, but this wasn't a great wrestling match. So I feel like if I grade this as a wrestling match, it's going to downgrade the quality of the angle. If I grade this as an angle, it makes the match too good. If you see what I mean. I hope you do. It does bring into light a bit of a quandary with regards to Bray Wyatt / The Fiend. And I saw a few people mention this on Twitter, in the sense that you've got this great character in Bray Wyatt / The Fiend, but the wrestling matches don't normally have the same greatness than the storyline bit of it does. Like, we had a great match with Daniel Bryan and The Fiend the other month, but bear in mind, Daniel Bryan's involved in that, so of course it's going to be good. But there's a bit of a disconnect there, I feel, which I think is a problem. But regardless, I really liked I liked Bray Wyatt's style, his entrance and all that stuff. I thought the return of Daniel Bryan was good, so I don't want to grade this either way, because I feel like I'd either be overgrading a match or undergrading an angle, if you see what I mean. Feel free to go for me in the comments. I don't care. It's nearly Christmas. I'm not going to grade. So this is an ungradable thing. I personally loved it. Would love to know what you think in the comments. We come now to the match with the biggest build of the night, and it's Rusev versus Bobby Lashley in a tables match. Just want to say the video package they put together for this, which featured TLC written as TMZ, and it was done like a TMZ sort of showbiz sizzle reel. Mwah! Love that. That was, beautifully in keeping with the nonsense of the storyline. I'm down for that. The match itself, I like the video package. The video package was good. A lot of brawling, a lot of punching and kicking and flailing. This is a grudge match. A lot of teased table spots throughout this as well. It just felt quite plodding. Like, Rusev took a hell of a chokeslam onto the guardrail at one point, which I thought was a great bit. There's a bit where Rusev goes crazy with the cane, just battering Bobby Lashley. There's a few little bright moments, but it's just a bit there. Like, this match doesn't really go anywhere. The finish comes where Rusev looks like he's about to put Bobby through either of the tables set up in either corner of the ring. Lana jumps onto Rusev's back and distracts him long enough for Bobby to get his bearings, and then Bobby goes to spear Rusev through a table. Table doesn't break. I am the table. And so then Bobby Lashley hits an overhead suplex onto Rusev through the other table and gets the win. Bobby Lashley defeats Rusev. This feud shall continue. This was a C- for me. In contrast to, and I know contrast will be drawn to what I said about the Bray Wyatt Miz match, how that was, that wasn't I didn't want to grade that because of the match quality. The difference being is that was more of a storyline match, i.e. Miz just beating up Bray Wyatt for a bit and then Bray Wyatt winning and then some more story. Like, this was built as a grudge match and it just dragged. Like, the story wasn't enhanced by this match. Whereas in the Miz Bray Wyatt match, the story was enhanced by that match, but the match wasn't great. If you see what I mean, see what I mean? I hope you see what I mean. But this just dragged. This could have done with being 10 minutes shorter. Saying that, I think it was about 13 minutes, wasn't it? I can't remember. It could have done with being a bit shorter, and it looks like it's carrying on. So yay! Maybe the next match they have will be better. I hope it is, because I'm only giving this a C-. Sorry, lads. Street Profits are backstage, but their bants are interrupted by a fight breaking out between Corbin and Ziggler and his minions, and there's Roman Reigns there and the New Day, and there's a whole load of other bodies, and they just fight here, there, and everywhere, and they just fight at a shot, and Street Profits get involved. Oh, it's just chaos backstage tonight. Chaos! Anyway, enough of that. It's time for the main event. This is the match that should have always gone on last, in my opinion. It's Becky and Charlotte versus the Kabuki Warriors for the women's tag team titles in a TLC match. I've enjoyed the build to this. I don't think either Becky or Charlotte has in real life, it seems. But no, I'm glad this goes on last. I feel like this feels like this should have been the main event all along, and it is. Does it live up to it? Well, at the start of this match, this really sets out to be like an intense match. Like, there's no wasted energy. There's a lot of fighting and scratching and clawing and grabbing and throwing, and I like this. I like the pace of it to begin with, and it just there's a couple of occasions in this match where it just falls apart, where everything slows down a bit as people sort of find their bearings again. The story in this match, which you will have probably heard about by now, is Kairi Sane. Kairi does some really great stuff in this match. There's a great moment where she's throwing chairs into the ring at Becky and Charlotte. They start throwing chairs back, so she dives under the ring to hide from them. When they pull her out from under the ring, she's just clutching a fire extinguisher, just sprays them both with the fire extinguisher, which I thought was a really cool spot. But somewhere in this match, Kairi takes a bump or a knock, possibly even she gets knocked out on her feet. We don't know. There's a couple of moments like where Becky Lynch is throwing monitors, and you see a monitor sort of clip Kairi in the head. Charlotte does a slam into the barricade that looks like it might have knocked her a bit silly. There's a splash off the table late in the match, which really looks bad and looks like Kairi takes a bit of a bad landing from it. There's a bit where Charlotte's taking her up for a spear earlier on, and Kairi just doesn't take this spear well at all. And at that point, you kind of go, is she all right? There's something not right here. And then there's a powerbomb spot later on in the match where Kairi Sane is sort of scratching and clawing to not go up for this powerbomb. Whether she's fighting as a heel or whether she's out of it, I don't know. She takes a powerbomb into the table, and she just doesn't look like she's in a good place. There's a lot of concern in that. Away from that, because you could see that near the end of the match they figured out that something wasn't right with Kairi, so they had to. I believe the match finish feels like it's been adapted. We'll get to it in a sec. There was some I like that there was some really good moments of innovation in this match. They tried different things in this match, and I'm all for trying different things. When Asuka pulled out the rope, and they had Charlotte. At one point, they had Charlotte. They were trying to put Charlotte to sort of strap Charlotte to the announcer's chair by using the Singapore cane through the chair, which they just gave up on it after a little bit. They went, this ain't working. They strapped Becky Lynch to the ladder. Like she's lay on the ladder, and they tie her up with rope in the ladder, a bit like she's a damsel from a vaudeville film. Now the train will get you. That was my first thought on that. They try lots of little innovative spots, which I think it's great when you see a match like this. They try and mix it up. The finish came, and it was a bit of exposition earlier in the match that played into the finish, where Kairi Sane tied the rope that she'd used to tie up Becky Lynch. She tied it to the ladder so she could tie up Becky Lynch with it. So later in the match, Charlotte gets taken out with a powerbomb off the apron to the ground. It's maddening. So it leaves Becky Lynch on her own. So Becky Lynch is climbing up on her own. And then Asuka on the outside of the ring pulls the rope, which is still attached to that ladder from earlier. So the ladder comes down. Becky catches her jaw on the rope and bounces off to the floor. Asuka gets in the ring, climbs up the ladder, and grabs the titles. It's a bit anticlimactic, but I feel like that wasn't the ending they had planned. Feels like there was something more there was meant to be, but I think Kairi Sane getting knocked out on her feet sort of affected that. Asuka standing on the top of the ladder, holding the belts up. I think she celebrates for about 4 seconds before, let's cut to the crowd. There's Roman Reigns and the New Day, and is that the Authors of Pain? Is that the Street Profits? Is that some random security guys? Is that King Corbin? There's Ziggler. There's just a fight breaking out, and we focus on this for the rest of the night. All like 2 minutes left of the show. They're fighting around the crowd. Corbin and Reigns fight up onto a platform, and we see a massive spear off the platform into this group of people, and we go off air with Roman Reigns having just speared Corbin into oblivion and wiped out all these people. And that is the last shot we see of the night. And that ends TLC. I thought it was weird how fast they cut away from the ring, whether or not because there's some concern for Kairi Sane, whether this was always the plan to kind of end with something frantic, I don't know. I guess we'll find out as time goes on. I'm giving this match a C+, and that sounds really harsh, but for me, this match felt very cluttered, and it felt like a lot of stuff didn't really click, and a few times it fell apart. And I'm not just counting the Kairi Sane situation where Kairi was clearly knocked out at some point in the match. Even before that, there were points where this match didn't really feel like it was clicking. I like the fact they tried new stuff, but for me, it wasn't a great match. It really wasn't. It was. I firmly believe it was the right match to go on last. Becky Lynch is the biggest star in the company. So yes, you put your biggest star on last. And then plus the bit at the end where we cut away and then we're going into another story over there. I thought, yeah, it didn't really work for me. It's a C+. So don't even at me. Don't even at me. I think there is this. I don't want there to be this thing where we can't badly grade main event women's matches, right? Because there's been some phenomenal ones. There has been some phenomenal matches in the women's and the men's division in 2019. There's also been some crap ones. And there's been some okay ones in both divisions. So I think everything needs to be graded as thus. I didn't think this was a particularly great match. It was not the worst match of the night by a long mile. By a long mile. And it definitely should have got on last. Just didn't really click for me. I'm giving TLC 2019 a C+. I thought it started really strong, got lost in the middle, nearly came back at the end, but not quite. If you watch anything from this show, I think the tag ladder match between the New Day and the Revival was the best match of the night. And watch Bray Wyatt's entrance. It's such a beautiful contrast from the Fiend to Bray Wyatt. I really, really like it. And I enjoyed some of the innovation in the main event, but it just wasn't quite enough for me in the main event. C+ for TLC. Not the greatest grade to end the decade on, but you know what? In a couple of weeks' time, it's a brand spanking new decade. Let's come at it with some big things. Royal Rumble's around the corner. I'm pumped for the Rumble. Bring that noise on. Love you, bye. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. You can support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/Cultaholic. Lastly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.